Titans and Jaguars about to get down to it. Game don't mean nothing though. Hopefully you got what you needed for Christmas. Did you, Tyler?
Yeah, maybe not.
Locked on Jaguars, locked on Titans crossover.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for joining us for Locked On NFL, Locked On Jaguars, Locked On Titans crossover. I'm Tony Wiggins, and he is Tyler Roland. We are the hosts of the Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Titans podcast, where it's your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen. Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use the code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, now, so here's what we're going to do today, man. We are going to talk about the keys to victory to today's game, the biggest storylines for today's game, and then just a basic get started basically with talking about the Titans and the Jaguars and the way the season has gone and maybe a little bit of a look forward. We're used to it, a look forward to what these teams need to do over the next couple of years. Locked On Jaguars, Locked On Titans can be found wherever you get your podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, or wherever you hear your podcast. Make sure you tap in every single day. I'm tapped in every single day with my brother from another mother, Tyler Roland, Tic Tac Titans, Locked On Titans, host extraordinaire. My brother, it has been a bad season.
Yeah, it's been a tough one. And you say, looking forward. I've been looking forward for 25 years with this team, man. It just never ends. When am I going to look to now? When am I going to be, ghost of Christmas present? But yeah, I'm with you there. It's been a tough season for both teams, and I think probably best for us to just, look forward. And, we probably won't get to have one of these crossovers with each other again until, I know I like to check in with you after the draft and stuff like that, but probably maybe until our division, preview right before the next season pulls up. So it's probably a good time for us to outline what we want from our teams going forward.
Speaking of which, you picked the Jaguars to finish last.
I did.
And in order for that to come true, y'all got to beat the Jaguars this weekend, right? Well, no, if the Jaguars beat y'all, no, if y'all beat the Jaguars, yeah, the Jaguars will sew up the bottom of the. I thought you was crazy when you said that too. By the way, I say, Tyler, no, that can't be true.
Well, I'm still crazy, Tony.
What made you say that? Because when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, he's just on that haterade, man. There ain't no way he thinks the Jaguars gonna finish last.
You know what it is? It's the reality that the Jaguars and Titans are clown franchises. We're just, and when we think something is going to go right, when we think things have turned around, when we think that there's hope, it is not only extinguished, it is ripped away entirely. Like, that is just the way that it works for us franchises. Like the Texans, they're up and down. They've had their moments, but they're pretty consistent. They've been consistent. We know the Colts are the real big brother of the division. They have the Super Bowl championship when no one else does. They had their Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck run. Like, fine, they get to sit on top of the hill no matter what's happened these last few years. But for some reason, the Titans and the Jags, not only do we fail, but we fail miserably. So just something in my soul told me that Jacksonville would go from the high that they were on down to the low once again, because that's just how it works for our franchise. And I will tell you this, though, Tony. I've been wrong a lot about a lot of things this year with the Titans and how I thought they'd do and all of that. So I am begging you, Santa, let me be wrong one more time and let the Titans lose this game.
Let me park there for a minute, because you and I have this discussion a lot. And I saw Antonio Pierce talk about some of the heat that he was getting from draft picks for them winning and beating the Jaguars last week, knowing that everybody wants Shador either there or in New York. Now the Jaguars are sitting at number 2. They're ahead of the Raiders. And my man Pierce say, we don't do that for the draft. We don't do this for the draft. We don't do this for fantasy football. I'm of the inkling that it's hard to tank because guys need to put tape out in order to get jobs and contracts. So it's really, really hard for a team to tank. And it also serves as counterintuitive to what these coaches tell these dudes every single day. Yes. We need every rep. We need everybody on board. And I just don't know how you turn that off without somebody lining themselves up to be hurt or hurt their pockets. But I am a realist, and I do understand that it's in the best interest of these teams to not win these damn games at this point in the season.
For sure. I think a couple of weeks ago when we talked, and even like a week before that, or I think it was, the conversation was starting with our game a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
My philosophy was the Titans and Jags are in different positions. I even talked about it on our crossover that the Jags are probably going to get, a new coach in the offseason. They don't have their starting quarterback out there. So it's not like they're building momentum or getting more comfortable in the system or proof of concept wins for a new coaching staff. None of that's real for Jacksonville. It is all real for Titans. That Will Levis had played his best month of football that we had seen. You're going against a worse defense, a bad team. He should be able to continue that or play even better. That helps you towards next year. Brian Callahan having the team play good at the end of the season, even though it's a bad year, that builds confidence to next year. I said this on my show yesterday, or 2 days ago now. There is no chance that happens. Levis is out. He's been benched. Rudolph is playing in this game. What Brian Callahan has done so far this year, I'm not saying I'm out on Brian Callahan, but nothing can happen against the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Texans, who will likely be resting starters in the last week of the year, to make me have more confidence in Brian Callahan going forward in the next year. There is no proof of concept wins. There is no build momentum for next year after that loss to the Colts and how it started out, even though they made a fake comeback. The loss to the Jags, scoring 6 points at home against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. You have erased any opportunity for that momentum building or for that confidence increase. That is not happening anymore. So with that out of the window as a possibility, then lose the games. We need Abdul Carter. Desperately need Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter on this football team. And this game is so important because of the draft position of these two teams. The Titans can fall all the way to the 9th pick in the draft if they win this game, while Jacksonville could potentially move up to the 2nd pick. So it truly is not only are you going to hurt yourself, you're going to help one of your division rivals, and the upside is zero. So I've totally changed my mind after the last few weeks of what the Titans have done on what their approach should be. But the thing is, Tony, like you're saying, players don't tank, coaches don't tank because their jobs are at stake. Tanking is done on a higher level, whether you don't give your team the talent to win. Like we see at the Giants, they cut Daniel Jones to make sure that they don't win any games, or it can be done with injuries where if a guy is on the line and they would typically play. Like if Jacksonville was in the playoff hunt, Trevor Lawrence would be on the field right now.
Yes.
He would have waited to have surgery. He would have played through. Like you make medical decisions based on where your team is at, and that is a form of tanking. So for me, the Titans need to lose this game desperately because there is no upside to winning anymore because all the good feelings that can come from winning have been extinguished by what's happened the last 3 weeks.
No doubt about it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into some specifics. Let's talk about the coach and GM. Don't know if the Titans are going to make a move. I do expect we hope. Let me say not
right.
Let me change the word. I said I expect the Jaguars to make a move. No, we hope the Jaguars make a move because Sean has been very, very slow to fire people. Then we're going to get into some fun stuff talking about, I don't know, Brian Thomas Jr. versus Calvin Ridley. Which one of those things actually worked out? We'll talk about that and more as we continue a crossover edition of Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Titans. And today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had 2 of them coming out, and it was for the same thing. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for them. That's right. The Rocket Money made it easy. It made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower bills so you can grow your savings. For me, it's one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore. People just taking monthly money out of my bank account, and I had no idea where it was going and what it was coming out for. That's right. And they took care of me at Rocket Money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That's rocketmoney.com/locked on. rocketmoney/locked on. All right, moving along here on Locked On Titans and Locked On Jaguars. our crossover that we do every time. We get a chance to hear from my buddy Tyler Roland. And by the way, we crossing each other's streets all the time out here behind the scenes, but we barely have a chance to talk anymore. But we're in a very, very similar situation. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars should make changes to both the front office and the coaching situation. It doesn't always mean you have instant success, because Rand Carthon was the hot guy coming from a great organization. And then Callie, the coach over with the Titans, was leaving situations where the offenses were super, super prolific. So there's a difference between something being a quick fix and then something being something that's very, very necessary for the infrastructure of the franchise. That's where I think the Jaguars are. I think a lot of the heavy lifting is done. Trent Baalke hasn't done an overall terrible job of drafting players. He has done, I believe, a bad job of team building and setting the course for this franchise. So that is very, very conducive with winning. How do you guys feel about Rand, your coach combination, your coach and your GM combination? And then what are your wish lists for the quarterback situation? Because I think we've seen probably the last of Mr. Will Levis.
Yeah, I think Rand Carthon, you know how this works, Tony, though. When the team does poorly, everyone sucks. Mm-hmm. Nobody did a good job. Every fan says he sucks. He's fired. But you look at what Rand Carthon's done. It's weird because I actually think Rand Carthon has done a pretty good job. Calvin Ridley, we'll talk about it, but Calvin Ridley's been a godsend to this team. If they didn't have Calvin Ridley, they might not have won a game.
That's good.
Tony Pollard, same thing.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard's going over 1,000 yards. Tony Pollard has been excellent. Everybody crying in their Wheaties about losing Derek Henry. I don't think Derek Henry would have as many yards as Tony Pollard does, because Tony Pollard's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage every time, and Derek Henry is best when he has that runway. So I honestly think Tony Pollard had a better season for the Titans than Henry would have on this team, even though Derek Henry is clearly the better player. It's about fit and circumstance and all of that. Lloyd Cushenberry was playing pretty good football before. Some of the defensive stuff hasn't worked out, like L'Jarius Sneed and Cheeto Awuzie, and, Quandre Diggs gets hurt. The Jamal Adams thing is a disaster. Kenneth Murray has been awful, but Sebastian Joseph Day has been pretty solid. And then you look at the draft. I mean, Will Levis didn't, but I don't mind taking a chance on a second-round quarterback.
It was worth it. It was worth it.
Right. When Ryan Tannehill is in his last year.
Right.
Yeah, that's a risk you have to take. Not every move is going to work. But Peter Skoronski has been an all-pro level guard over the last 2 months. He has really turned into the player that we'd hoped he would be. Tajay Spears injured a lot of the year, but a clear playmaker. Chikakonkwo has looked good as of late as well. The last 2 weeks, he's been fantastic. You go to this year's draft, J.C. Latham had his rookie ups and downs against really good edge rushers, like the Jags guys and the Texans guys, but he's been very solid on a bad offensive line that has had the worst left tackle position for the last 2 seasons in the NFL. T'Vondre Sweat, I was wrong about that. He has been the best rookie defensive lineman in the NFL this year, probably. Right. So, or at least interior defensive lineman. I know Verse has been excellent for the Rams. So to me, it's like Rand Carthon has done enough good stuff, but at the end of the day, he also hired Brian Callahan. He also didn't address the right tackle position in free agency well enough. He didn't address the edge rusher position in free agency well enough. So there are enough losses to go with some of the wins where you're like, he's okay. He's okay, but we need to see more. I personally don't think the heat should be on Rand Carthon as much. Callahan, though, you have to wonder whether he was ready for the job. Never called plays before at the NFL level. Now he's being a play caller and a head coach, only 39. Was he ready for the opportunity? Because he's definitely had some bad coaching performance. The Titans have lost games this year that are the main culprit is the coaching. And I've been a defender of Brian Callahan. So I think they're both going to get one more year to see if they can get some wins and turn this around. But at the end of the day, you got to win in this industry. And if they don't do it next year, if they're terrible again next year, they're both going to get fired. And a lot of that has to do with the quarterback they pick for next year. And that's why I don't think the right move is to take a quarterback in the draft. I know that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are there at the top of the draft, but if you put those guys on the Titans next year, they're going to do terrible. They're going to look terrible. Everyone's going to get fired. The Titans need to build the roster to get ready for a quarterback in the next few years, but this year is not the year to do it. So go the veteran route. I don't want to pay Sam Darnold. I'm not high on Sam Darnold. I think he's got best situations in the NFL, The Titans aren't going to provide that situation to Sam Darnold. So paying him $50 million a year for a couple years would be a disaster, in my opinion. I want to see the Titans go out and get Aaron Rodgers if he's released.
Oh, my God.
Bring him in for 1 year, see if he can win in Callahan's system a little bit. And if not, he retires, and then you draft your quarterback after another year of roster building. Bring in a guy like Derek Carr if he's released. See if Brian Callahan actually can win with a veteran starting level quarterback, even quarterbacks that aren't great anymore, starting level quarterback. So I don't want Kirk Cousins. I don't really want Justin Fields. I don't want to pay Sam Darnold, but a guy like Derek Carr or a guy like Aaron Rodgers at least lets you evaluate Brian Callahan going forward, even if it doesn't mean that you're going to win.
Let me tell you something. As a Jaguar fan, there is nothing I want to see more than Aaron Rodgers showing up in Nashville. I'm going to tell you right now, ain't nothing I want to see more than Aaron Rodgers showing up in Nashville, man, and all of that rigmarole going on with him. But you're right about Callahan. People always, this is why I warn people. A lot of people want Doug Peterson gone and they want a play caller. And I don't mind the play. I don't mind Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, right? Yeah. I like those guys. But here, the thing about them is I don't want them because they're great play callers. I want them because they're great communicators. And I like Liam Cohen a lot because he is the top offensive coach on that staff. And he has learned from the great Tom Moore, who is a senior analyst and an advisor on that staff. Therefore, when you watch the offense, and this isn't to take anything away from Todd Bowles, but you get the sense that most of the supervisory things and the flow and the way that they're learning and the way that they're onboarding their young players comes from Liam Cohen. And not to take stuff away from him, but the thing about it being a play caller, you saw with Jeff Ulbrich, the second they walked Robert Saleh out of that building in New York, I think a lot of things were missing. The things that Ulbrich used to do weren't being done by him anymore. They were being done by somebody else. So when you fire a coach, it's always the next man up. I want the Jaguars to start completely over. I'm tired of pointing fingers trying to figure out whose fault this is. Last year, they went 9-8 and they jettisoned the entire staff on defense, right? Well, they're 3-12 now, and the defense is absolutely worse. So sometimes you can dump the wrong cargo. And sometimes trying to figure it out, all you're doing is just you're taking the part of it that you don't think is the problem if you're Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson, and then you're tweaking it. I don't want to tweak. I want them gone. I want them to start completely over. I believe in Trevor Lawrence. The last 5 or 6 weeks have shown you that the Jaguars don't even have a pulse without him, and with him, they have a chance to win. I do believe in some of the things that they've done. I just don't believe in the entire experiment. I don't believe in the entire movement and the way that they're going about it. And more importantly is this. Even if they were 9-8, I would feel this way. If they were 9-8 for a third straight year. But they're now 3-12 and probably going to end up 3-14 or maybe at best 4-13.
4-13. They're going to be 4-13.
Right. So go ahead. So my problem with them is this. I'll give them credit for some of the things that they did. Brian Thomas Jr. is, I think, a top 10 wide receiver in the National Football League.
Great pick.
But they wanted to keep Calvin Ridley, and they would have probably taken Terry and Arnold. So a broke clock is right twice a day, and I'm going to give them credit for it. But I don't think that this group is the group to now. If they were 9-8 up for a third straight year, I will still be sitting here saying they can't go to the next level. Now that they're 3-14 or whatever that is, 4-13, I really don't believe that those two people can get them out of this hole. This is quicksand. You need to just start this whole script over again with them standing on level ground, man, with a new coach. I just don't think that they can get it done.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It's like sometimes it reminds me of, Mike Malarkey for the Titans. Takes the team to their first playoff game in 10 years, all of that. But you just know when you look at it that this isn't going to be able – we aren't on the first couple of steps of turning this all the way up. We know that we're not going to go much higher than this. So I hear what you're saying. I've been there before.
It's like having that journeyman boxer. He's 35 wins and 32 of them have been knockouts, but he's got 12 losses too. And he ain't no longer fighting pay-per-view, dude. He's fighting in little casinos on reservations. So he's tough, but guess what? He ain't never, ever going to be a champion again. All right, keys to victory for this weekend's game. We'll have that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars, Locked On Titans crossover. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. That is right, man. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. That's right. I love being and betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. I've always checked out Jonathan Taylor because he's always finding the end zone if he's not dropping the ball. Derek Henry is definitely going to find it. And, of course, Saquon Barkley, man, is the absolute truth. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Rolling along here on the Thursday crossover. All of our Thursday crossovers across the Locked On Podcast Network are sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app and use the code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Talking to Tyler Roland of Locked On Titans, and I am Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars. No, we ain't wrestling. Usually when we see each other, we're going to tear up some furniture and wrestle and argue with each other like we do sometimes, but it's a really all love and friendly debate between Tyler and I, both hosted the Locked On NFL show. Now, keys to victory, a victory that I don't believe either one of us particularly wants to happen, but somebody has to play. I think for the Jaguars, the keys to victory is get off the field on third down, stop doing dumb penalties. Now, this might, when you have two bad teams, this might be the same thing. Get off the field on third down, stop the dumb penalties that extend possessions for the other team, and find a way to create turnovers. Tyler, I'm going to blow your mind. The Jaguars have 8 turnovers this year that they have created. That is, I've never seen a number that low in my life. There's some teams that get 5 and 6 turnovers in one game.
Yes.
They have 8 for the entire season.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's bad. Well, I'm going to blow your mind, Tony. The Titans have 31 turnovers on offense this year as a team. This year, 31. Even Brian Callahan called that insane. So I think both of us, I'll go into my keys to victory, but the reality with this game is it's like, which dumb kid in class is less dumb? You know what I mean? It's not like what we need is we don't need our teams to go out and do something. It's what we need them not to do if they want to win. That it's not go do this. It's don't do this with our teams. And for the Titans, turnovers. 4 turnovers last week, 4 turnovers the week before. Like, again, the turnover, if you turn over the ball, you're going to lose because the Titans aren't good enough to stop it. And then stop the run. The Titans gave up 330 rushing yards last week to the Indianapolis Colts when you know that the quarterback can't throw and all they want to do is run, and you still couldn't do anything about it. And I think a lot of that had to do with the Titans have young linebackers right now. Kenneth Murray, who isn't very good anyways. He's hurt. Luke Gifford, who's a special teams only player, but one of the best inside linebackers on the team, he's out. Jerome Baker has been terrible. Now we're playing Cedric Gray, a rookie who missed most of the season with an injury, and James Williams, a 7th-round rookie who's transitioning from being a safety at the University of Miami, who I know you've seen James Williams. You heard of James Williams in high school. He's been a safety his whole life. He's transitioning to play linebacker, and Cedric Gray and James Williams were lost all week last week against the Colts run defense. Like, it was embarrassing how bad they were. And the Titans have a backup safety in, and Darryl Worley, who they picked up off waivers this year. Amani Hooker is a very good player in pass coverage, but he has had a very bad year in run defense with his angles and his tackling. So, like, if the Titans don't stop the run and they turn over the ball, they're going to get smoked. And the final thing for me is special teams. The Titans have been terrible on special teams all year long. They have a disadvantage. And I feel like when the Titans play the Jaguars find a way to win on special teams and influence the game. They've had some pretty good special teams units. I know it's not been perfect, but they've had some good special teams elements in recent years. So turnovers, run defense, special teams, that's what the Titans have to focus on if they want to win.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now. I fully expect Mason Rudolph to be the better quarterback on the field this weekend, and I fully expect the Tennessee Titans to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Me too.
You can see it coming, man. I actually thought the Jaguars should have won the previous matchup that they played. Or did the Jaguars? I think the Jaguars did. Yeah, we did beat.
So, did either team really win? It felt like both teams lost with the way the game
was. That's why I wanted to point this out. You mentioned two dumb kids in class. It's like if one kid is standing up at the board. I almost laughed when you said it. It's like a kid. It's like me and you, right? Look, what if it's me and you, and I turn and I'm at the board, and we got this little thing that when I cough, I'm gonna actually look between my arm, and you're gonna hold up something to tell me the answer, right? And the teacher goes, what's 10 minus 5? And I'm standing there and I'm trying to count on my fingers. She said, no fingers. And I cough and I look back and you got this sign that goes, how much is a field goal in the NFL? And I write 3 and we're both wrong because it ain't 3. The answer's 5. So two dumb kids that can't get out of their own way. That's just who we are this weekend, man. It is ironic that for two groups of people that usually beat up on each other and pick at each other that we look just alike. So whatever
I don't think anyone's in any situation. No one's in a situation to pick on anybody else.
No, not at all. So for me, the keys is to keep everybody healthy, and it's to the point where there are some guys, and you're this late in the season, and I know they don't do load management, but like you said, if there's anything, I don't care if it's a hangnail, if there's an ingrown toenail that could keep Trayvon Walker and Brian Thomas Jr. and the rest of those guys from playing once they hit their incentives or hit their benchmarks for their career, I would snatch them out so fast, because you lose a guy now, you might be losing him for the first part of the season. This is where you don't want somebody who has a lot of value, like Foye Oluokun, your starting Mike linebacker, or your starting corner. You don't want to get that torn pec muscle that's going to keep them out until November next year. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, everything's about next year for these teams right now. And the last thing that you want is a major injury that can impact not only next season, but like you want these guys to have a healthy offseason, especially your young players that you're talking about who are continuing to grow as players and learning. Like Brian Thomas Jr. cannot afford to miss out on this offseason, because we know that when you're coming from the draft, after your college season ends, you start training for the combine. You start training for draft stuff, which is not the same as training for football. You know what I mean? It's totally different things that you're training for. So that first offseason in the NFL for a young player is so, so critical. You do not want to have them get any kind of major injury. And I feel the same for, any of the young players on the Titans, quite honestly. You know what I mean? That you just cannot afford to have anybody who you need next year get hurt in any of these meaningless games.
Yep. Tyler, tell them where they can find us every day when we're not doing these podcasts.
Yeah, well, when we're not doing Locked On Titans and Locked On Jags, you can, of course, find us at Locked On NFL, where I host the morning show, Tony hosts the afternoon show, bringing you a double dose of NFL content. Look, whatever way that you listen to Locked On Jags and you listen to Locked On Titans, you can listen to Locked On NFL for free the same exact way. So at minimum, it's Christmas time. We give you guys year-round free content. Show us some love, show us some support, and go subscribe to Locked On NFL.
I enjoyed the game this weekend, and please have a nice holiday with you and your family. Shout out, because I've been this guy. I've been in the military. A lot of soldiers, airmen, seamen, and Marines that are not going to be home with their family because they're protecting our country and protecting our freedom. So we want to give a shout out to you guys and your families, and hopefully you have the technology and you listen to these podcasts, and that makes the distance between you and your families on these holidays a little more sweet. For all of us here at Locked On Jaguars, Locked On Titans, take care, and we'll see you next time.